Hey movie fans, so I'm assuming by now you've seen the new Star Wars poster, and I was going to talk about that, but given that there's going to be a new trailer tomorrow, I'm just going to lump those together. But I did still want to talk about Star Wars, so I racked my brain and thought, what Star Wars topic could I talk about? So, I'm going to go with the difficult one. I'm going to try and rank all 6 Star Wars movies in order from the worst in my mind to the best. Now this is a personal list, it's not just like the artistic quality of Star Wars, it's my personal picks of this is the one I like the best, this is the one I absolutely hate. And with that, the worst Star Wars movie, starting us off at number 6 I guess, by far in my mind, Attack of the Clones. Attack of the Clones, just, wow. Is there like a fast forward button for all of Attack of the Clones? Because that movie, it's poorly written, overly reliant on CGI, and just overall very, very bland and incredibly hard to follow from a story perspective. So it takes place 10 years after the events of the lackluster Phantom Menace, and it just was ho-hum. Like everyone, there's no memorable characters, all of them were cardboard cutouts. Dialogue was just terrible, and there really wasn't too much action in the film itself, except for that pretty decent arena scene. I like that scene a lot in Attack of the Clones. But unfortunately, Attack of the Clones also has the demerit, I guess, of being one of only 2 movies that contain scenes that I physically could not watch anymore because they're so bad. One of which being the Spider-Man 3 dance scene. Oh. And the I didn't just kill the men, but the women and the children scene from Attack of the Clones when Anakin is going to the dark side. That is one of the worst acted, worst delivered, and worst written lines ever. It's so bad. It just racks my brain how they even went with this movie. But that movie's in the past. It's 13 years old now. Let's just forget about it and move on to the second worst Star Wars movie, The Phantom Menace. Now, a lot of people will say The Phantom Menace is probably the worst, but I have my own little bias of growing up, I watched Phantom Menace to death because I was a kid, I didn't know any better. And so I still kind of look at it from that perspective. Plus, I think there's more positives to Phantom Menace than there are positives in Attack of the Clones. You got Darth Maul doing 10 seconds of screen time. Well, not 10 seconds, 10 minutes, but not in it for very long, needless to say. Obi-Wan, there's some other positives of Phantom Menace. Yes, it was a huge disappointment to legions of Star Wars fans, but I, as a kid in 1999, didn't know any better, and that's why it's not the worst Star Wars movie in my mind. It's still really, really bad. I'm not trying to defend it at all. But, for me, it's 5, not 6, and I can still get some enjoyment out of certain scenes, but as a whole, the movie's bad. At number 4, I'm going to go with Revenge of the Sith, because this one actually has some glimmers of Star Wars in it, like the old trilogy fun and feel to it. They're few and far between, but there's still some fun moments to be had in Revenge of the Sith, more so than the other 2 movies. This one is Anakin Skywalker is fully Vader now, which some of those scenes of transformation I really did not get at all, but there's been worse in Star Wars. Revenge of the overall, it was good. It was decent. It's a fun flick to have on in the background, but it doesn't live up to the Star Wars standard that the previous movies have set for it, but it doesn't make it a bad movie. It's great compared to the other 2, but it's just Now we get into the real hard stuff of trying to categorize which is the best of the original trilogy. Here goes. I gotta go with, at number 3, Return of the Jedi. Because while all 3 of them are perfect, I think Return of the Jedi is the weakest. That's not saying it's bad. I still love Return of the Jedi. It's one of my favorite movies of all time. Yeah, actually, I had to think about that for a second. But yeah, it's Star Wars. I love Return of the Jedi. And I think Return of the Jedi has my favorite scene in the entire Star Wars saga, which is the final fight between Luke and Vader. Just for the whole metaphor that's going on with internal struggle between the dark side and the light going on with Luke. juxtaposing with the physical battle that's going on between him and Vader. It's just a great scene with great score by John Williams. Just bless you, John Williams. You made some great music for this saga. Just the best in movie history. And it's really solid. But then you got the Ewoks beating the Stormtroopers, attacking the Death Star again. Certain elements do kind of repeat from Episode 4, but that's not a bad thing. Return of the Jedi is still fantastic and a great way to cap off that original trilogy. But in my mind, it's still the weakest of the three, but it's still really solid and head and shoulders above a lot of other trilogy cappers. Now, this is the one that's going to give me a lot of flack. At number 2, I'm going to put Empire Strikes Back, because I think Empire Strikes Back is a better film than A New Hope, but I like A New Hope more than Empire Strikes Back, out of just nostalgia, and I think A New Hope is more iconic than Empire Strikes Back. But I really, really enjoyed the story of Empire Strikes Back a lot. Empire Strikes Back did what any good sequel should, and they raised the stakes a lot. You felt the consequences of the actions that the rebels committed in A New Hope. You could feel the power of the Empire. It became a darker, but not so dark that it wasn't still an enjoyable story. And it brought this new complexity to the characters with the relationship between Han and Leia going on, and the whole I Know scene, which is still fantastic today. And then you have Luke going on this interesting journey, going from the annoying, I wanted to go to Tosche Station and pick up some power converters, to beginning his road to becoming the Jedi that we know and love in Return of the Jedi. It's an interesting transitional movie, and a lot of people love it, and I love it too. Not as much as New Hope, but I think from a story perspective, it's the strongest of all 6 Star Wars movies, and it's a solid all-around film. Not just a solid Star Wars movie, but it's a solid movie as a whole. So obviously, you know my number 1, A New Hope. I think there's no other movie I can think of off the top of my head that every single scene is iconic. And that could just be my own bias of having worn out the special edition VHS so much for Episode 4 and watching it every major holiday basically because it was always on TV. But this movie, every line could basically be quoted. Everybody knows Star Wars, and generally when they think Star Wars, they think of that original. They think of the 3 main characters in their classic outfits, blowing up the Death Star and saving the day. It was a straightforward story that sparked so much in popular culture, and in a lot of filmgoers that shaped who they were as a film fan. And this is the one that started it all. It's a lot of people's favorite, and it's definitely my favorite too. Well, what do you guys think? What's your favorite Star Wars movie, and how would you rank the entire saga from worst to best? Let me know in the comments below. And as always, if you like what you're seeing and want to see more, subscribe to the channel, or find me on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram at 17 Movie Reviews. Stay sharp, movie guys and gals, and may the Force be with you.